I have to ask you about the Russia question. There's been on again, off again, the peace talks that have been going on, some progress, derailed completely. In the backdrop of all that, a lot of people see that President Trump views the Russia-Ukraine war as a subset of how he views the US-Russia relationship. Is that a view you share, or do you think that's a very pessimistic view of how President Trump and his administration may sort out the 3-year-plus long war?
So at the very start of his term, President Trump, as you say, pointed out that he would solve the war in 24 hours. That hasn't happened. But for much of the last 100 days, he has appeared to espouse Russian talking points. He has appeared to say that Russia is not responsible for starting the war. It, of course, is. He has said that in his proposal of a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, Ukraine would essentially give up all the territory it's lost so far, including Crimea, which it lost in 2014, and it would get nothing in return. It wouldn't get any American security guarantees. It certainly wouldn't get membership to NATO, which is the one thing that it really wants if it does give up any territory. So he's appeared to really side with Russia in many respects. We're beginning to see that change in the last few days. When President Trump met President Zelensky of Ukraine at the Vatican City at the Pope's funeral last week, it seemed like he was finally coming round to the idea that Putin of Russia was playing him. And he said as much, that it seemed as if Putin was tapping him along, which means that we might be seeing signs now that Trump is realizing that Putin can't be trusted, that Putin has been stringing him along, and that in reality, all the problems that the Biden administration was dealing with in terms of Russia was probably true. So Trump may actually reverse some of what he's been saying so far. Of course, the jury's out.
Right. In fact, stay with me, Ravi, because I want to quickly now get in Professor Harsh Pant and Nicholas Nugent joining me from New Delhi and London to essentially cover the entire gamut of what all Trump administration has achieved or intended to achieve, but sort of failed to reach there. Let me, in fact, get in a quick word from Professor Pant on the India aspect, and then we, of course, delve into some of the other aspects. Ravi, stay with me. Professor Pant, the other aspect in terms of foreign policy of Trump administration, while many would say and would probably have a more pessimistic view, if for want of a better word, when it comes to US relationships with some of the NATO allies, Russia, so on and so forth. When it comes to India, not only there is continuity, stability, but there's in fact a great upside, isn't it?
Well, Gauri, yes, I think with India, certainly there has been more continuity, there has been more stability. I would also use the word in these 4 times, but also a sense of predictability that, bilateral relations thrive when there is a degree of predictability about each other's intentions. And I think in that sense, the early visit that Mr. Modi took to Washington underscored almost all of the commitments that Biden administration and Modi government have been working on and towards. So I think in that sense, the broader framework of the relationship that had been set under Biden, which also part of that had come from Trump 1.0. We saw that continue. We saw an acceleration. We saw the fact that a lot of hinged on technology cooperation, and Trump administration in its second version decided to take it forward. So I do think that there are elements here which bind the two together. Certainly the changing balance of power in the Indo-Pacific, certainly the China factor is there, which allows you to engage each other more substantively. But I do think that the framework that Mr. Modi and President Trump developed or came to an agreement on during Mr. Modi's visit is a solid one. And therefore, we have seen progress, for example, on the bilateral trade agreement happening. India is notoriously bad when it comes to free trade agreements. But now that Mr. Trump is there, perhaps we will see an accelerated process towards that, which we are witnessing over a few years. So I think a lot of the problems were anticipated. Yes. And I think our work on them was done during the first meeting, which I think is a good sign in that sense.
Indeed. And Nicholas, let me then ask you about the other aspect. enough has been said and more is being talked about how NATO allies seem to have been getting the raw end of the deal here at this stage. Talk to us about what's the view like in London right now in terms of the Trump administration, its outlook for NATO, and also the again, on again, off again when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia issue.
Well, I agree with everything that's been said so far, but you will not be surprised if I tell you that sitting here in the UK, our biggest concern is security in Europe. Because, and I would add to what Ravi said about confusion and chaos, I would add the word unpredictability, because I think that is, for Europe, that is the greatest problem we have. We don't know what's going to happen next. Our fears are that NATO, that has kept the peace in Europe since the Second World War, has lost its backbone, because Mr. Trump is clearly not committed to NATO in the way that European member nations are. And indeed Canada, I might add, is also on side with Europe. So we really don't know what's going to happen next. And we are very concerned because you have the greatest conflict in Europe since the Second World War going on at the moment. And our hopes were that Donald Trump, as he promised, would solve it, would bring peace very shortly. Now, 100 days on, that hasn't happened. So really, what is going to happen next, we don't know. I take on board what Ravi was saying about we are just seeing some signs that possibly Mr. Trump is changing his tune a little bit and getting rather more suspicious about Russia and its objectives.
In fact, he said Vladimir stop, didn't he? He said that exactly 3 days back, and probably the harshest tone one could have heard when it comes to how he views the situation to be more complex, with probably lesser answers than what the administration would have ideally had or wanted to. I'm going to slip into a very short break, come back with lots more on the other side, including what it means in terms of the outlook and road ahead going forward. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching our big focus, 100 days of Trump 2.0, the impact on foreign policy. And more importantly, viewers, we now ask what lies ahead. And that's one thing I want to ask all the three panelists. Professor Pant, let me ask you that in terms of what could be the future roadmap in next 100 days, the next 200 days for President Trump and his administration. Wars haven't ended. Neither has been some sort of a nuclear pact or arrangement with Iran. How hopeful or optimistic are you that at least some of this would actually be done?
Well, I think if the first 100 days are anything to go by, I would say that more unpredictability is in the offing, because clearly none of the agenda items, big ticket items, have been met. So I think a lot of the energy would certainly now be focused of the Trump administration on trying to conclude some of the big aspects of his agenda, because that's something that is really needed for him to claim that he has had some success. So while in the first 100 days we can be a bit nonchalant about the outcomes, the next 100 days would largely be all about the outcomes, because in the first 100 days it is all about challenging the existing assumptions, rearranging the world order in the ways that perhaps he would have felt best serve America and American interests. But I think now going forward, there will be a lot of questions, open questions about his ability or inability to deliver, particularly on war and peace issues, which he had said he would be able to deliver quickly. So I think a lot of the focus would be on what happens on the Ukraine front as well as on the Israel front, but perhaps also on the tariff front.
Yes, absolutely, on the tariff front. In fact, CNN says they say that 52 times the president had said that he's going to end the two wars in 24 hours. Nicholas, let me ask you the other question, which is the Iran aspect of it. Something that there has been a lot of expectation that there could be some forward movement. How hopeful are you that that could probably be the one big outcome over the next couple of months for Trump administration?
Well, I'm hopeful, of course. I'm hopeful that all these problems will be solved. I mean, we could say that internationally, President Trump has taken on three issues. One is the Ukraine-Russia war, two is the Middle East war, Gaza war, and three is Iran. Which is great. People are talking. I mean, that's all very positive. But then I look back to Trump 1, his first his first outing as president. And there, the negotiations that went on, notably with the Taliban in Afghanistan and with North Korea, didn't lead to any results. So he frankly doesn't have a very good track record on that. But I am with you, or with the question, in saying that, yes, a deal with Iran is very rightly on the top or near the top of the agenda. I just hope we're going to get some outcome on Iran, on Gaza, and most of all on Ukraine.
We leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so much for speaking to me. A lot of ground to cover, but I guess that is also telling that just how much an American president needs to focus on, and his 100 days did touch upon a lot of things, but outcomes have been far and few. On that note, completely timed out. On this special edition of 100 Days of Trump 2.0, we focused on foreign policy, but there's more to focus on. Economy, immigration, what happens to some of the other big ticket items, and Donald Trump's ratings that have plummeted. What will he focus on going forward? All that you will find only on NDTV World and its rolling coverage of the biggest global story that's happening around the world.